Okay, so now you've looked up all your currency values and you've figured out their market values and what they are. So now let's do some math. And we're going to create some formulas here. We're going to do two problems together, and you'll see that each problem has actually three sub-problems in them. You must show your work when you do that. If you do not show your work, you will lose points, and you will redo it until you show your work. Today, we are not using calculators. We are not using the calculators on the computers. We are working the problem out because you have to show the math. So, you've already looked up the Mexican peso, and how many pesos, Mexican pesos, are there to the United States dollar, rounding it to the nearest whole number? I bet you decided the correct number was 12. As of 4 o'clock Thursday evening, there were 12 pesos to the United States dollar. So that's all we have to write. Easy problem, no math, right? Next part, what is a peso worth based on the information from above? So I guess now I need to create some sort of formula that will give the foreign currency's value to the United States dollar. So this is an abbreviation. I'm going to be using the foreign currency. Well, in order to get this, I'm going to have to take the United States dollar, and I'm going to have to divide that foreign currency into it to see how much is in one U.S. dollar. So our formula will always look like such. And then that'll give us our individual foreign currencies units and how much it's worth in comparison to that. So what is the number of pesos to United States dollar? 12. So I would take 12 and I would divide it into the dollar. And what I like to do to make sure that I'm working the problem right is I always like to guesstimate. And I'm sure we've talked about this math concept in math class, without a doubt, I'm sure. So I'm thinking that's close to a dime. So I'm going to say there's going to be, it's going to be worth at least 10 cents, at least. So let me just work this with you over here. You work it with me. How many times will 12 go into 1? None. How many times will it go into 10? None. How many times will 12 go into 100? Hopefully you said 8. What is 12 times 8? 16. Carry the 1, 96. And I'm left with 4. Now, I like to go until I at least have a second number where I can decide if I need to round up, round down, or what have not. So I'm going to go one more spot, and that's 40. So how many times will 12 go into 40? It happens to be 3 because I know 12 times 3 equals 36. So at least 83. So now, is this number larger or smaller than 5? It's smaller. So what I'm really setting you up for is that we know that when we talk about money, like as in this dollar, we know that we take the cents not to the tenth but the hundredth spot. So I really need to go that additional spot over to make sure that I get a cent-based answer that's common to us here in the States. So it looks like that a peso is going to be worth about 8 cents, right? So I would say that the Mexican, I need to change pin colors here. So I would have to say that the Mexican peso now equals about 8 cents here in the United States. Now, how many pesos are there in 5 U.S. dollars? So that would be different. I'll have to set up a different formula. I'll have to take the foreign currency times the U.S. dollar, won't I? And then I'll be able to come up with how many. Now remember, we've rounded that number. We've rounded how many pesos that whole into a whole number. And I know from looking up on number 1 up top here that there are 12 pesos to the United States dollar. And if I want to find how many are in 5, I'm going to substitute that for 5. I'm going to multiply, And I'm going to find out that that would be how many? 60. So my answer is 60 pesos to the United States dollar. Now, I'm not a math teacher, but I find that it's easier for me to see your answers if you help me by circling them. And notice I've worked out the math, so I'm going to get my full credit. I've done my division, my multiplication, and I've shown all those answers. So when you turn something like this into me, when you are going to do this on your own, you should definitely follow the model that I've already proposed to you here. Let's do the next one. Let's do the Argentine peso. And we've already discovered, hopefully by now, that there are 4 Argentine pesos to the United States dollar. So now we have to figure out its value. And again, we're going to set up the same formula we did up above. We're going to take our foreign currencies, in this case the Argentine peso, and I'm going to write 4, and I'm going to divide it into the United States dollar. And I'm not a genius or anything, but when I think of fours, I think of quarters. So how many quarters are there in a dollar? Oh my goodness. So I think right now, I'm venturing to guess it's worth 25 cents, but let's work the math out to show our work. So how many times will 4 go into 10? Hopefully you're saying 2. So now I'm left with 2, and how many times will 4 go into 20? 5. And that'll leave me with no remainers, so I don't need to continue. And I already see that I've gone to my 10th, my 100th spot, so I know that 25 cents, that's how much the Argentine peso is worth. Now the next problem says, how many of these Argentine pesos are there in 10 US dollars? So again, I look up top here, I see 4. I know I'm going to put my foreign currency over the US dollar. I'm going to multiply it, but because the US dollar has a little larger worth down here, I think it'd be easier to make a multiplication problem as such. So how many Argentine pesos would go into 4 US dollars? There would be 40 pesos in 10 US dollars. Well, I think you're ready to motor on to the next page. Now, you're going to be on your own for the next page. And that means now that we're going to be using some different currencies. Now, in the past, I've done the Spanish euro. And I'm going to tell you that you are going to have to change this, because this is going to take you into such a huge number. So I think what I want to do is change the Spanish euro, and let's go with the Cuban peso. There's a lot going on in Cuba right now. They're opening our markets to us, so this might be an interesting number as well. So we're going to go with the Cuban peso here. And again, we'll have to replace this with peso. What is the Cuban peso worth? And how many Cuban pesos are in the US dollar? So make sure you make that change on your paper. And then down at the bottom it's Colombian pesos. So work out the math problems both. And then we're going to go on to our next page. Remember, you're doing this with a partner. Now here, this is a little bit different. You're going to be in a situation with Spanish 3 students where you're going to have to guess if something they're telling you is a bargain or it's kind of a robo, it's kind of a rip-off. So we're going to have to do some math in our heads on that day. So without writing the following problems out or using a calculator or anything, I want you to guesstimate. So you will probably have to flip back to your first 2 pages of charts where they talk about the Costa Rican currency. And you'll have to figure out what that is. You'll have to do a little bit of colones math in your head with this large number, but I think you can do it. All of these problems are multiple choice, so you're just circling an answer. Now today, when you finish with foreign currency, I would like you to stick this worksheet, this packet, into the bin, and I will be able to correct it when I get back on Monday. We're going to continue to do math. We are going to learn to barter next week. We are going to write checks. Some of us have written checks before, some of us have not. And we're going to learn how to write them in a foreign language just to practice some larger numbers. We're going to have an auction next week. We are going to sell things to one another. It's going to be a fun week, so bring your math brain with you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My computer will be up and on. You can instant message me, first and eighth periods. So if you have any questions at all, just feel free to do that. Hey, buena suerte. Good luck with this, and remember to turn it in so you can get some points. Adios, clase.